Mullinger's Weekly Ramble.
Hello, it is Wednesday, the 5th of June. It's a glorious summer's day here in Halifax, Nova Scotia. And do you notice that I sound a bit clearer than normal? Here on episode 14 of Mullinger's Weekly Ramble. That's right, I am sitting in the brand new, official, glorious, majestic, stunningly beautiful Podstarter studio. That's right. My wonderful producers and friends Reese and John have moved into new, very luxurious surroundings. And I am only the second person to ever record in the brand new Podstarter studios. They've done an amazing job of moving in. All of the fixtures and fittings and setups and all of the hundreds of podcasts that they've produced over the years are all proudly displayed on the walls. But of course, I was beaten to the punch by my dear beloved friend, Nancy Regan, who was here yesterday recording. And of course, being Nancy, she left the most ginormous plate of delicious fudge for me. She is the most amazing fudge maker in the world. She has cheered me up with fudge before. I was doing a book signing at Dartmouth Indigo, where, like many book signings, I was there for about 3 hours, and I'd say about 3 people showed up, one of which was Nancy, my dear friend, the other of which was my son, who was forced to be there. But other than that, it was a huge success. Obviously, you know what they say. You got to promote the only promote the wins online. I didn't post those pictures of me sat there looking rather glum and depressed. But of course, I wasn't glum and depressed because Nancy turned up with tons of fudge, with pictures of my book on it. Anyway, so I turned up today here at the Podstarter studio to record. This is the first time ever recording Mullinger's Weekly Ramble in a professional surroundings. So you can probably hear every single of my mouth. So for that, I apologize. So why am I in Halifax? I am here for a week for a very, very exciting project. I'm not sure how much I'm allowed to say, but I can say it is a sitcom. I think I'm also allowed to say that it is about comedians, and it is very excitingly for the SwearNet streaming network, which is, of course, the network owned by, produced by, founded by the Trailer Park Boys. Now, this being this week, many of you will know, of course, that Snoop Dogg was here in Halifax on Monday night for a big show at the Scotiabank Arena. We finished filming, and as I was leaving the location where we're filming on Argyle Street, actually, we're filming in the basement, which is where Yuck Yucks is located. So it feels like home from home, filming a sitcom about comedians in a place where I literally was headlining just 2 weeks ago. And one of the wonderful people, Robbie, who is the lead in the show, one of the people who I believe conceived it with the amazing creators, Tyler and Jason, he invited me to come to the official after party of Snoop's show upstairs at the old Toothy Moose, which was being hosted by the Trailer Park Boys. So all 3 Trailer Park Boys in character with Snoop Dogg. Now, this is either a sign that I have got too old or a sign that I'm now a professional, but I actually didn't go. Now, I've been obviously a huge Trailer Park Boys fan, like most of us have been for many, many years. A huge Snoop Dogg fan since the 90s. Or maybe it's not that I'm old or professional, and it is simply that I am so excited about this sitcom, this project, that I just wanted to be on form. So I missed the opportunity to go and party with the Trailer Park Boys and Snoop Dogg, and went back to my hotel room to learn my lines for the following day. Actually what I did do, kind of as research, kind of to get myself in the right mindset for filming, I sat and watched something which I don't know if I knew existed. I don't know if any of you have seen, but it was the original 1999 black and white. Essentially, it's a pilot, but it's also a feature film of the Trailer Park Boys. So this was before, I believe, Showcase got involved. I believe it was before they got different producers involved to craft it into a more palatable television series. for Showcase, and of course it ultimately went global. But this original black and white has more of a Clerks feel to it, if anyone knows the Kevin Smith 1993 classic Clerks. And it's absolutely hilarious. And in many ways, to my twisted sense of humor, I think I actually prefer it to the show. There's tons of stuff in it that they possibly couldn't do, or there's a lot of rough edges that were definitely softened, both plot-wise and in the characters, possibly to make it more of a mainstream show. One big change being that all of the characters, Robbie and Julian, throughout, they're doing lots of cocaine throughout, lots of drink driving as there is in the series. But obviously, the cocaine use was switched to pot smoking primarily in the series. Also, they have a job. They are hitmen. They are assassins of pets, which is obviously an incredibly bold, creative move to have your two protagonists literally committing the cardinal sin of murdering cats and dogs. The fact that, we obviously, understandably, we all love our pets and we love animals, and rightly so. And the fact that, we completely accept that John Wick might need to brutally murder thousands upon thousands of people in a variety of increasingly bloody and horrific ways, to avenge the murder of a dog. It really is quite out there and radical that these guys created a show where they went, oh, you know what? There's these two characters that are quite unlikable, but we need the audience to like them. But we're going to have them drink driving, taking cocaine behind the wheel, and murdering people's pets. So so it gives you an example of the kind of show that I'm working on, that I watched that for research and warm up. This is, of course, today is indeed, for once I'm actually recording it on the day that you're hearing it. I'll be honest, interested full disclosure, I normally record Mullinger's Weekly Ramble on the Tuesday, so it can go out on the Wednesday morning. Ooh, behind the scenes, lift the veil, behind the curtain. Yes, that's right. I'm sharing all of the secrets of my trade. But today is actually Wednesday. And I believe tonight, is it tonight, the Snoop Dogg is in St. John performing with Classified at TD Station, which is where Harbour Station used to be. So that's what's going on. So I'm in Halifax. This is a rare break. We've been filming 12-hour days. It's been an absolute blast. I did arrive in Halifax on Sunday. I came by bus from Moncton. I've been in Moncton all weekend for the Word Spring Book Festival. And I arrived by bus on Sunday as soon as I got to the gorgeous Sutton Place Hotel, my favourite hotel in the world. And shout out to everyone at the Sutton Place for, literally, I've said it many times before on this podcast and on social and in print and everywhere else, how much I love the Sutton Place. But this week really is a treat, the fact that I'm here for 8 nights. And basically, I've moved into the Sutton Place. And actually, weirdly, I'm also back next week for a corporate gig as well. Next week's going to be a fun one. I have 2 shows, 2 days with the shows back to back. And I kind of, when I took the bookings, was under the impression that it was, a show in Fredericton on the Thursday night and a show on Friday night in Halifax. But it transpires that actually it's late Thursday night for the gig in Fredericton and 9 a.m. Monday morning in Halifax. So that's going to be a fun drive through the night to make it to Halifax in time for the keynotes. But no doubt the wonderful people at the Sutton Place will have me feeling rested and ready for performance in no time. What was my point? Yes, so I arrived in Halifax, got to the Sutton Place after a day on the bus, and went straight down to the basement where Yuck Yucks is located on a Friday and Saturday, and also where we're filming the sitcom. I went down there for Robbie Vino's Sunday Sesh, which is a fantastic concept that he's created, which is, it's kind of, I said this on stage, it kind of felt like I'm in the beginning of a Tarantino movie. There's a band on stage. There's all kinds of weirdness going on. There's people coming on the stage. There's people roasting the audience. There's comedians roasting each other. There's people singing while a comedian's on. There's audience members coming on stage and chugging beer, having beer chugging contests. A really, really great wild atmosphere is created. So if you happen to be near Argyle Street in Halifax on a Sunday night, you really should check out Robbie Vino's Sunday Sesh. And so yeah, arrived in town, knew we were filming at 7 a.m. Monday morning, but just couldn't resist getting a set in. Came and had a lot of fun. So I was in Halifax. No, sorry, I was in Moncton for the Word Spring Book Festival, which is now become a highlight of my year. Massive shout out to Chris and Rhonda and everyone at the Writers' Federation of New Brunswick. They have really created something magical. You know, it's not easy being a creator or a writer anywhere in the world. And I think we all know that it's harder when you're doing it in a smaller place where there are less kind of spotlights on you. There's less opportunities, there's less outlets. And that we're also in a place where, very much wrongly, the rest of the country / the bigger cities kind of look down on us or don't accept us. So it's really important for creatives to stick together, for organizations to be created and come about, to celebrate each other. And that is what Rhonda and everyone at the Writers' Federation in New Brunswick have done. So last year was my first time attending. I delivered the opening keynote, and then that night was absurdly surprised to discover that I'd won Best Non-Fiction Book at the New Brunswick Book Awards for Brit Happens, which completely blew my mind. As I say, I never win anything. Comedians are rarely recognised. I am never recognised. I believe I won I do have a 5-metre swimming badge from when I was about 10. I know it's very late to be swimming 5 meters, but I was a slow developer. And I think I came third in the Donkey Derby once at the Maidenhead Cox Green. And the Cox Green is the name of a town, not a medical condition. Although I have also had that. It's what happens if you fuck Shrek, anything can happen. So it's important for community. So it was a wonderful time last year, and then they invited me back this year to talk about marketing. Because again, writers and all creatives, we struggle with marketing ourselves. I know but we have to, because no one's going to do it for us. We're not in a position where we can afford to hire PRs or marketing experts. And half the time, even the people you're working with, and by that I mean whether it's theatres or comedy clubs, they're not going to do any promotion for you. It's all on your head. So if someone writes a book, produces a stand-up special, creates a podcast, whatever you do, no one's going to promote it for you. And even less and less as every single newspaper, publication, magazine, radio station just slowly shuts down one by one. And then the few that are left, Justin Trudeau comes up with this amazing plan to save Canadian media. There will be no Canadian media online. And we'll go, okay, Trudeau, sounds like a good plan, even though if Harper came up with that, we would have crucified him for it. And I don't understand how that has not been resolved. I'm sure you're all aware that you cannot share any news online. For example, it was very interesting to see on the Guardian newspaper, which is my British newspaper of choice, that the most read article on the Guardian this week was about the mystery brain disease that has been affecting and indeed killing New Brunswickers, and how leaked documents revealed that essentially the investigation was in rather suspicious circumstances shut down. And this isn't a conspiracy theory, by the way. This is just literally the fact. This was the number one most read thing on a British newspaper that is read globally, and no one in New Brunswick knows because, A, no newspapers, and B, you can't share the news on the socials. So anyway, I digress. The ADHD is kicking in big time. I was filming 14 hours yesterday, but filming all morning. I have a point to this. My point is this: that we need to celebrate. We need to market ourselves. So I did a seminar on how to market oneself, how to put oneself out there. I'm very proud that I did a 2.5-hour seminar and workshop on marketing. And I don't think I ever once said the word TikTok or Big Bog or Lick Lock or Book Talk or any of that bollocks. And I maybe only said the phrase social media when saying, I'm not going to talk about social media. So I was able to, there was millions of different ways. I mean, one example is, of course, getting your friend Nancy Regan to create Fudge with your book cover on it. Those are the ways to reach people. So I ended my presentation with kind of talking about, the fact that we create this work and we want it to get out there. But I wanted to end on a high note / a moving note. And I've happened to find a picture of a poem that my granny, my mum's mum, wrote to her children in 1986, very shortly before she died. And they had never seen this poem. And my grandmother, my granny, my mum's mum, died very young of a heart attack, which is why my mum was so incredibly moved by my son River's work for the Heart and Stroke Foundation of New Brunswick. And the kids had invested in a small TV for my granny's living room, so she didn't have to watch all the crap that my granddad always wanted to watch. So she wrote this poem, which none of them ever saw until she had passed. And so she passed in shortly after this in the late 80s, and they found this poem. And I kind of made the point that we all create work, whether it be podcasts that some of you listen to, or maybe no one's listening to. Maybe I'm just talking into the ether. You know, they say if a tree falls in the woods and no one's around to hear it, did it really fall? I mean, or is there a sound, whatever it is? If a British comedian with stupid eyebrows is sitting alone in a studio, and is it really happening? I mean, there's videos to prove it's happening. There's, Reese Waters is in the studio, possibly looking at pornography. Has any of this really happened? He's not, just to be clear, he's not looking at pornography. What a terrible thing to say. He graciously produces this podcast like an absolute master, makes my awful audio, often recorded in hotel rooms, sound absolutely diabolical. He invites me into his beautiful new studio to be the second person to break the cherry. Can you break a virginity twice? I don't know. Nancy broke the virginity. He invites me in, and I have the audacity to imply that he might be looking at pornography. I would just like to say, in no uncertain terms, that Reese Waters is almost certainly not looking at pornography, although Connor has just come in, so it is perfectly possible that there is pornography. Otherwise, Connor would not have come in. He definitely wouldn't have come in to listen to this ramble. Oh my God, I can't believe I'm saying, I'm about to read. So, Mum, if you listen to this, those two things should not have crossed over. My point is this: we create work, and yes, we want people to see it and read it, but really, surely the greatest pleasure is just to create work that can be enjoyed by the people close to us and the people that we love. So before we go any further, I know I often like to start with profound and thought-provoking mantras. So I would like to share with you a poem that my grandmother wrote to her children after they bought her a television so she could enjoy movies like... I remember one of the last movies I ever watched with her before she passed was the musical Carousel. So this is the poem that she wrote. That I can't imagine what my Auntie Zoe felt when she was going through her mother's things after she had passed so young and found this poem. So, to my children, dated the 21st of October, 1986. Remember me with humour, if you can, when you walk in country where you ran. When white horses gallop on the sea and friendly dogs approach, remember me. When crocus daffodils and lilac bloom, or fragrant hyacinths within your room, as sleepy tortoise reappears, as birds at dawn delight your ears. Let none of you feel need for tears, while with you I received so much, not lost with lack of sight and touch. No mother was more blessed than I, so please be happy for me when I die. One thing seems probable to me, you will remember me when it's time for tea. Beautiful, beautiful words, and I can't imagine what my Auntie Zoe felt when she found that. So I ended the presentation on Saturday morning with that, and then after my wife Pam had managed to get all the kids to all of their sporting commitments and all of the rest, she drove to Moncton just in time for the New Brunswick Book Awards that night, where she was delivering the keynote speech. Now, understandably, you might assume that my wife Pam has, as the president and founder of Edit Magazine, you would have thought that she maybe has delivered keynote speeches before, and she's certainly been asked many, many times over the past couple of decades. But it was actually the very first time she'd ever done it. She and I have actually only twice before, spoken publicly together. She doesn't like public speaking. She doesn't really like. She's very happy to be behind the scenes. She's not on social media. She's never had a Facebook account. She's never been on Twitter. She was briefly on Instagram. She doesn't use any of it. She likes actual socializing. She likes being in front of people. The magazine she worked for in England, when she worked for Vanity Fair, of course, social media wasn't really a thing. Monocle and Wallpaper magazines both thrived very much without all of that. And so as a result, she has never engaged that way and never really been out there. So she was delivering a speech. So on the Thursday, we went to our oldest son's school to deliver a talk, essentially as warm-up for her, about the business, about how we founded Edit magazine. And I should point out very quickly, actually, that the new issue is available to order online now. It is on newsstands across Canada next week. The cover story is about Acadie Lumina, which many of you will know is a kind of immersive walk through beautiful woodland in Bucktouche, New Brunswick. And it is it's a world-class, world-renowned concept that has been enjoyed and excelled all over the world and indeed across Canada. But this is the very first one in Atlantic Canada, and it's in Bucktouche in the I can't say it properly, but Pays de la Sanguine, Le Pays de la Sanguine. That definitely came out the wrong accent, but Pays de la Sanguine. So that is the cover story, and I've interviewed the masterminds behind it. There is so many wonderful things to enjoy in the new issue. So do go online and check it out. It is all across the socials right now. Gary Weeks has taken absolutely beautiful photographs of the amazing Dr. Mary McCarthy, who is the mother of our culture correspondent who has written the feature, Thunderway McCarthy, an absolute local legend, poet, globally renowned poet. We have stories on the the anniversary of the IWK Foundation, 40 years of community giving. Andre Odette, one of my favorite photographers, a big profile on him. Best things to do in the Maritimes this summer. I'll give you some little tips. Hammond's Plains is where it's at this summer, both Atlantic Splash Adventure and Splashy Facts. Also, I highly recommend Broken Pieces Rage Room in St. John. Owner Julie is an absolute gem. I also have a list of all the best things to do on PEI this summer. And my sister-in-law Judy has written about how the PGA Tour Americas is coming to Mactaquac Golf Course. That's right. Where did the name Renforth come from? Well, guess what? We've got a feature revealing all of that. But crucially, I think the thing that I'm most proud of in this issue is the definitive guide to Atlantic Canada's independent bookstores. That's right. 5 years I've been working on this feature. 5 years I've been working around the clock. I think I've been to every single bookstore in Atlantic Canada, both as a fan, as a collector, and also as an author. It definitely, releasing my book 2 years ago, helped me complete this feature. It's been, I'd like to say, a slog. It hasn't been. It's been a joy, although my wife's not very happy with the fact that the ceiling above the bedroom is dipping slightly as all of the books that I've purchased are dragging it down from the loft. We also have Regan Brannan, who is one of the masterminds behind the Writers' Federation of New Brunswick. She's written about the New Brunswick Book Awards, the creation of it, how it came to be. And we also have the story of Noel Winters. Reese probably doesn't know the story of Noel Winters. Noel Winters is New Brunswick's favourite murderer, not the right way to put it. If you're interested in chopped up bodies, which, I mean, who isn't? A very disturbing story, and it's interesting. I actually, for the very first time last week, after watching my son play rugby, went to the pub Down Under in St. John for the very first time. My first time ever in the pub Down Under. It's called the pub Down Under, not because it's Australian, it's because it's kind of under a car park. It's a weird entrance. You go into a multi-story parking lot, and then you're in this pub that is absolutely awesome inside. Most authentically British-feeling pub, even though there's sports North American sports memorabilia all over the walls. But as my father-in-law Barry told me, it was Noel Winters' favourite pub. Everyone's got a story about Noel Winters. Even my mother-in-law had an encounter with Noel Winters once. They had a little fender bender on the peninsula. And she wanted to call the cops. He didn't. And when she insisted, he went and stashed a knife in the woods that was in his trunk. So, I'm not saying it was the knife used to do up the chopping, nothing like that. But who knows? I'm not saying my mother-in-law was an accomplice to any of this. I'm just saying that everyone has a Noel Winter story. And then I also, for this issue, have interviewed the great Ian Hannah-Mansing, Sackville's finest, host of The National, who interestingly did an interview on The National last week with Mark Breslin, the founder of Yuck Yucks Comedy Club. Well, very interesting interview that. His with Mark, it's not my place to say if my interview with Ian Hannah-Mansing is very interesting, although I will say that it is. You've got to be confident in life because, like I say, if you can't market yourself, no one's going to do it for you. My favourite quote from the Ian Hannah-Mansing feature in the new issue of Edit is this one. He said to me, "New Brunswick is one of the most important parts of who I am." And that, in that one sentence, sums up why we don't normally profile people either in print or on any of the shows that I do on this podcast who have moved away, for want of a better phrase. Not to say that there's anything wrong with moving away. My wife moved away, but she did come back. But we're more interested in focusing on people like myself and Reese, who moved here by choice, not the witness protection people, the ones that came here by choice, and indeed the people who have stayed or indeed come home. We're not big on, CBC used to do this very, I'm not going to call it an odd segment, but, they used to do a segment on people who had moved away. So they did one on my wife, for instance, when she was living in London. And it seemed a very odd thing to do, to be celebrating people who've left, which is fine. Yes, credit to everyone for doing well, blah, blah, blah. But shouldn't we as a region celebrate the people who stay and move here just as much? But apparently not, because when I first moved here and tried to get positive stories in the media, I was often told, you can't do that, James, it's boosterism. That is boosterism, and we don't do that here at the East Coast CBCs. We don't like boosterism, and I've never understood that. You literally wouldn't hear that sentence anywhere else in the world. How self-loathing are we in Atlantic Canada that we are constantly, desperately fighting to hold ourselves back? It's a fascinating thing. We've never heard anyone in Hollywood go, "Oh, no, we can't promote that amazing statistic fact." It's boosterism, right? I think we all need to behave a bit more like UFC fighters and have a bit more confidence in ourselves. Speaking of which, what's happening with the Conor McGregor-Andrew Chandler show? Show? Well, that's what it is. It's a show, isn't it? It's a fight, but it is also a show. It's become a soap opera. If you follow UFC, it is quite, it's like they announced the fight, and I must admit, I am insanely excited for it. Everyone said, it will never happen. Conor's going to pull out. And then the big press conference that sold out in 5 minutes that was supposed to happen on Monday didn't happen. Everyone said, it's because Conor's pulled out, and now it's disappeared from the pay-per-view on the screens, and no one knows what's going on. And Andrew Chandler's suddenly online posting these inspirational quotes, and Conor's not to be heard of, and everyone's saying Conor's probably injured, and then everyone's making all the jokes, Conor's injured because he fell over while carrying a 5-kilo bag of cocaine. Conor's injured his septum. It's a weird thing. Every single piece of abuse about Conor McGregor online seems to be that he's a massive cokehead, which I'm sure is based on something. I guess it's based on the fact that he is almost a billionaire and likes to party a lot, which I don't know. I don't know what I would be doing if I was a billionaire, but I think Conor McGregor is entitled to do what he wants within the confines of the law, and I guess that is illegal. So yes, he shouldn't do that. He's a very naughty boy. Who knows what's going to happen? I've got to tell you, I'm a fan of Conor McGregor. I hope the fight happens. I enjoy entertainment, and let's face it, what's more entertaining than two highly skilled professionals joining one another with mutual respect in the ring or octagon and beating 7 bells of shit out of each other. It's a genuinely, it's not a modern phenomenon, is it? It's quite literally the oldest phenomenon in the world. I've gone off point. What was my point? My point was that I need to go about 10 steps back. Normally, the ADHD allows me to properly actually focus on the spider's web family tree of things within my head. Yes, Ian Hannah-Mansing, that was it. That we don't normally cover people who've moved away. However, there is a handful of people from the East Coast who have moved away but chosen to use their new influence and power to continue doing good and bang the drum and sing the hymns of and worship at the altar of, I can continue with these analogies, of the East Coast. Those people include Tom Power, obviously, host of CBC's Q Show. He has used his power and influence to continue to promote the East Coast, and there is a very East Coast slant to his show. There's definitely a high proportion of East. He champions us, and he's had me on his show 2 or 3 times. A wonderful, wonderful man. He has moved away, so we featured Tom Baggs. He moved away, but he still uses his platform to promote the East Coast in Halifax. Another perfect example. He moved away, and he continues. Mark Bishop, the television producer from New Brunswick, based in Frank McKenna's obviously another one. But Mark Bishop, he's in Toronto. He's one of the biggest TV producers and most respected TV producers in the country, if not in North America, producing shows for all of the big streaming networks. Congratulations, Mark, I believe, on winning 15 Canadian Screen Awards last week. A phenomenal achievement, but for many of his shows, including Mr. Dress Up, that glorious, glorious movie for Amazon Prime, he produces and created and conceived the show Race Against the Tide, which is now on its 4th season, I believe, for CBC, primetime show. Him and his beautiful wife, Rebecca, were walking on New River Beach in New Brunswick, and one of them said, hey, we should do a TV show here where people make sandcastles competitively. And they did it. They have created dozens and dozens, hundreds of jobs on the East Coast. So, are we yet up to date? Well, no, we are still on Saturday, and my Pam arrived. My wife Pam. She's not my Pam. It's not the 18th century. I do not own her. She is her own person. She owns me, frankly. She arrived, and we went to Calactus, where I actually didn't realize my dear friend Jessie, who used to work at Spinach Records in Moncton, which, by the way, is one of the best record stores and video stores and computer game stores in the world. And that's not an exaggeration. Very dangerous. It was a couple of minutes walk from the Rod Hotel where I was staying. It's also where I once ended when I released my album London Letter Maritime on vinyl, on blue gatefold sleeve vinyl, I might add. I did a record store there. I did a special tour of 6 record stores in a day, 6 gigs in one day, 2 in St. John, 1 in St. Stephen, 1 in Fredericton, 2 in Moncton. Bang, 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 bang. Amazing, amazing day. I can't remember if that adds up to 6. Not very good at math. I ended it at Spinach Records, and Jesse, great guy. Anyway, he's one of the chefs now at Calactus, and we had absolutely beautiful vegetarian restaurant. And if you think you don't like vegetarian food or indeed gluten-free food, go and eat their vegetarian gluten-free food. It's absolutely phenomenal. And we went to the awards. Now, it was such a joy to be at the New Brunswick Book Awards for 2 reasons. One, I was proud, excited, nervous to see Pam speak. I knew she'd do a phenomenal job, but I know that she hates it. And I guess in many ways, I mean, I hate, and by hate it, I mean she's nervous. And I too get nervous. I mean, I love the buzz afterwards, but I too still, after 20 years of doing stand-up, still struggle with the insecurities, the paranoia, all of the, and of course, I mean, a well-known comedian out on the West Coast posted a thing recently where it was a sign on the back of a door, and it said, it was like a sign on the back of a door before you work out on stage, and it said, you don't have to do this, you get to do this. I thought that was very profound and wonderful, although I will say I don't ever stop appreciating that I get to do it. The thing I constantly, before I walk out on stage, most of the time I'm looking in the mirror going, oh my God, why are you doing this to yourself? And then afterwards, I'm like, I'm the king of the world. Yes, I want to fill up this all the time. And then that's why I'm not allowed to, after a good gig, respond to emails, because that's the point where I go, yes, I'll do everything. Yes. And then suddenly I find myself doing a gig at 10 p.m. in Fredericton on a Thursday night in Halifax, 9 a.m. on a Monday. So actually the first chapter of my next book is actually called The Yes Man. And it is about last year's New Brunswick Book Awards, when I stupidly said yes to so many things, including getting other people's children home, getting my children to a sleepover, that I screwed myself so badly that I backed myself into a corner that resulted in me having to leave the New Brunswick Book Awards before my category came up, and I missed the announcement that I had won and missed the chance to have a speech and missed basically what is the only time I will ever win an award in my entire life, having spent my entire life dreaming of one day being a writer, then dreaming of writing a book, and then of course in a million years never imagining I would win an award for it, let alone beating out other proper, serious, respected authors who've been reviewed favorably in the New York Times. The fact that that happened and will never happen, and I missed, that's what happened last year. So to be back there this year and actually be able to enjoy it, and to be honest, enjoy it knowing I was presenting an award as a previous winner, but I didn't have to speak, so I was able to enjoy it. But I was nervous for Pam, but I knew she'd do an amazing job, but she did. She went up and told her story, and it was magical. And between you and I, and let's face it, if you're still listening, you're in my circle of trust. And Pam ain't listening to this, ever. So don't tell her that what I'm about to tell you. She hasn't even read my book, to be honest. People will say to her, "Go, oh, James's book, it's really beautiful. He says such lovely things about you, you know, what did it feel reading that?" And she's like, "I haven't read it." And people look at her horrified, and she goes, "I don't need to read it. I have to fucking live it," which is a fair point. So I can tell you this, my plan is this, right? Being in a print magazine business, not an easy one. The cost of paper's quadrupled. And I'm having to do every single gig imaginable to keep this thing going. The region deserves it. I love it. I wanted this magazine to be. We got into this not for the money. But it's a tough business to be in. So I have to be, as you can probably tell, looking at my socials, I'm on the road a lot. But if I can get Pam trained up to do the old keynotes and the speeches and the presentations, maybe, just maybe, old Jimmy Mullinger can spend little bit more time at home with the kids, doing panini sticker books, trading cards, playing with the dog, jumping on the trampoline, playing UFC on the trampoline with my son, breaking my rib. Maybe I can spend a little bit more time with my VHS videos and my vinyl records and send the trouble and strife, her indoors, the wife, the old ball and chain, send her out on the road to do all the gigs while I'm safely ensconced at home. What do you think of that plan? It's fucking genius, I think you'll agree. So, the more of these little keynotes, so, what I'm saying is, if you've approached Pam in the past to do maybe a little a keynote at your conference or event, and she or I has got back to you and said, "Sorry, it's not what we do. It's not what she does." I think now I might be able to talk her into it. Is what I'm trying to say. So or maybe you've booked me a few times. You're like, "Oh, we've had enough of that limey prick with the stupid eyebrows flying about. His energy levels are too through the roof. He's exhausting all of the delegates, right? I wonder if there's anyone else a bit smarter than him, a bit prettier than him, that has smarter things to say." Well, good news for you. I've got just the lady. Anyway, let's keep that between us. So she delivers her keynote. It's absolutely wonderful. Where did we go after? We went to St. James's Gate afterwards for a drink. And it was the whole ceremony was wonderful. Congratulations, I should say, to all of the winners, all of the nominees. Like I say, the New Brunswick Book Awards as a concept is an amazing thing. It's a real David and Goliath story. And the full story is in the new issue of Reddit. And go out and look up all of the books. The book that won Best Non-Fiction Book of the Year this year was Mary Pratt's. It was the book about Mary Pratt, which was just absolutely gorgeous. Also published by Goose Lane. That's 2 Goose Lane wins in 2 years. And hopefully if I can get my next book out in time for next year, maybe another win. And maybe this time I'll actually be able to attend because I haven't got fucking children dragging me in 50 different directions. Okay, I think I've probably covered everything I've been up to. So then, of course, obviously after all that, then came to the old, came here, and I've just been here filming 12, 14, 15-hour days, having the time of my life. I don't think I'm allowed to say any more about the show, other than that I'm working with some really, really great people. And if you do want to get a feel for what this show's going to be like, check out the work of these great people. Tyler Burns and Jason Mosher are the people who have written, created, directed, produced this show. But check out their work and check out shows like, go on SwearNet. It's only $1.99 a month If you think of all the bullshit that we get ripped off by, it's like Crave. Go, come and sign up for Crave. And we're thinking, no, I don't need Crave. I can watch it on the pirate channel. I can watch it free. And no, much easier. You get all the pop-ups. All the pop-ups tell you, like those pop-ups of like naked women going, I'm in Halifax and my boobs are out. All those terrible pop-ups that pop up when you're trying to watch the new Disney movie on the pirate channel with the kids, and suddenly there's someone bent over, showing their whole anus ripped open. It's horrible, terrible way to watch, the latest Disney movie with the children. So Crave lures you in. There's only $4.99 a month, and then suddenly it gets jacked up. It's now $5,000 a month, right? Swearnet, $1.99 a month all the time. Tons of good shows, tons of brand new Trailer Park Boys content. But also shows like Get Parked, King and Porn. Check them all out. Get Parked has that. If you are like myself, if you have a fetish for very sensual Welsh voices, I will tell you that the voiceover for Get Parked is very arousing. It is indeed the dulcet tones of Rhys Waters, and it's quite a beautiful thing, because I'm sure you will know, back in Wales, Rhys did used to do sex line phone work when those were the thing. Do you remember those things when you would phone the sex lines before we had the internet? All this, we'd phone the sex lines, and a really sexy voice would get you all aroused, and you would play with yourself, and you just when you were just about to kind of finish, someone would be banging on the door of the phone box. Get out, remember those times. So I should point out, and I'm joking, it's very terrible. Again, another terrible thing. It's because Rhys is in front of, as a comedian, you can't not roast the person that's right in front of you, even when they've just invited you into their beautiful studio space. So that's what the show's like. I'm going to get to your questions in a moment. There's other things that I wanted to talk about. Oh, surprise. You want to talk more bollocks, do you, James? Well, Mullinger's load of old bollocks is what we should have called this show. Sad news from the print industry from London, and that is that the Evening Standard, which is London's newspaper, the newspaper of London, which is edited, interestingly, by my former boss, colleague, friend, Dylan Jones, who interestingly has a autobiography coming out. He's written numerous books over the years, many of which were somewhat autobiographical, and even his books on people like David Bowie were very much, personal. I mean, that was actually an oral history, but he has written very, very personal books before iPod, Therefore I Am. If anyone remembers what iPods were, and I remember over the years, would do picture research for him for some of his books, and his new book is an autobiography. So, I mean, this man, he knows where the bodies are buried, right? He has seen it all. So it's going to be a great book. Anyway, he is the editor of the Evening Standard now. And tragically, it was announced that the Evening Standard has gone from daily. It used to be cost 50p, whatever, and then it went free. And you would get on the tubes, the trains, after work, the buses, and everyone would be reading the Evening Standard. Because what you did, daily news, all daily. It's gone weekly, tragically, which, again, is not a good sign, because weekly, I mean, they used to do a weekly magazine, which was the ES Mag, which was also just as great. You can't do timely with a weekly paper, as is the case with the newspapers in New Brunswick, the Times and Transcript, the Gleaner, Kings County, the Telegraph Journal. And apparently the death knell for the Evening Standard was that bloody Wi-Fi was introduced on the tube trains. So I think the success, the reason the paper was still so successful was that, and the reason people were always reading, you would see people reading newspapers and books on the tube trains, right up until last time I was there last year, because there was no Wi-Fi. But now those bastards have put Wi-Fi on the tube. The fact that, I mean, surely we all deserve a break. I hate getting on planes now with free Wi-Fi, because suddenly you're on a plane. It's like this was my downtime, my respite, my escape. Just give us some anyway. So the Wi-Fi on the trains has been the death knell. Okay, before I get to the questions, I read something recently which I found fascinating, which I think has made me look at the world in an interesting way. You know how in life, how prejudice and people and status and all of these things and the class system and everything and the way in which we view each other and the world, all of these things affect everything. They affect, let's face it, this is where wars come from. I read something about how we all, humans, tend to just accept that pigeons are the worst, right? Pigeons are vermin. If we're standing in a beautiful square or you're standing in Halifax public gardens or in King's Square in St. John or wherever, Hyde Park, and someone throws bread on the ground and pigeons appear, we tend to hate that person. We hate the pigeons. People will kick pigeons. Pigeons are, and it's like, why are pigeons all around? And I read somewhere that for many years it was us, it was humans, it was the human race that domesticated pigeons because we needed them. We needed them for many, many things. But of course, the main one being that they used to be our postman, they used to be our email. They used to be our fax machines. They used to be our telephones. Pigeons were how we transported news. You needed to send a note to someone saying, "Hello, King Emperor the Fist. We are going to invade you," or "Your prostitutes are on the way," or "I've painted a fucking horrible painting of you, Prince Charles, and I'd like you to unveil it so it can become a hilarious meme and we can all laugh at you, you sausage-fingered twat." Whatever it is, we used to use pigeons. And we domesticated them. We made them, we brought them in. We opened our lives to them and we trained them and said, "We need you." And then suddenly, out of the blue, some bastard invented the stamp, and then some bigger bastard invented the fax machine, then some right bastard invented the email, and then so it went. And then we didn't need pigeons. And then we just suddenly went, "Fuck you, pigeons," overnight. You're the scum of the earth. Piss off. And that's horrible, is what I'm trying to say. And when you look at it like that we said, "We need you," and we did need them, and then suddenly, overnight, we decided they weren't needed. I think that's a really horrible. I mean, I guess that is that a metaphor for AI? It's certainly a metaphor for the way in which I was in the post office last week. And at the end of my transaction, the thing popped up on the screen saying, "How was your service today?" marked out of 10. And the gentleman behind the counter who just served me, very well, by the way, said, "Oh, that's Canada Post trying to make you do the boss's job. They fired all the bosses from the post offices. So now they want you, the customer, to be the boss. So you're the unpaid boss. You mark us out of 10 to feed back to the head office how well we're doing." So they've eliminated the bosses, fired them, and they're not paying us, the customer, the money. They're not using that money to pay the remaining staff more. They're not reducing the cost of the stamp. No, they're just taking that money, like every evil corporation in the world, just taking it. In the same way, the self-checkouts. Just self-checkout. Although it's a weird thing, isn't it? It's like every time I do the self-checkout, there's my local Sobeys, there's 4 self-checkouts, but it's such a fucking rigmarole that you need about 6 members of staff to stand there helping. Wouldn't it have just been easier just to leave things as they were, just have 4? You'd be saving the 2. It doesn't make any sense. Anyway, my point is that pigeons, be nice to pigeons. There you go. There is a more. What'd you learn on Manager's Weekly Ramble this week? Well, he talked a lot of bollocks, but mainly what I took away from it is that he really likes pigeons and he wants everyone to be nice to pigeons from now on. My friend Brittany Kitchen, if you're still listening, thank you for your message the other day. You sent me a message saying you were listening to this very podcast and you thanked me for bringing back fingering. Not with her, not specifically, but no, bringing back the word finger, reminding her of the word, not to say that she, what I'm saying is she thought it was funny that I mentioned fingering. That's it. And rightly so. A lot of us have forgotten the word fingering. Those were the good days. Those were the days. Bring back fingering. There's a theme for my next keynote at my son's school. Sarah Rutten asked, which do I prefer, UK or Canada, and why? We're on the questions now, by the way. By the way, keep your questions coming. If you want to ask me questions privately, comedy@jamesmanager.com. And equally, if you want to speak to the beautiful people at Podstarter about ways in which we can work together, maybe you want to hear your business promoted on air. Maybe you want me to come and visit your business and talk about it. The John, Reese, Connor, everyone here at Podstarter, they've got all the answers for you. And I promise all the terrible things I've said about Reese are not true. Okay, only the nice things. Sarah Button, what do I prefer, UK or Canada? Canada all the way. Although I will say I prefer the size of the UK, or rather, Canada is just too big. It's just too big. It's just too big, isn't it? But other than that, I prefer Canada for the people, for the scenery, and just generally the quality of living. Although I do prefer, I mean, food prices have gone up everywhere, but Canada more so than anywhere, and quite frankly, let's keep that boycott, that Loblaws let's boycott everywhere and all grow our own stuff. Okay, maybe the pigeons can help, and then we can. Yeah, okay. Michael Lynch has kindly asked. By the way, in addition to sounding better, this is my first time ever recording this with headphones on. Which hopefully I, in theory, thought would mean that I might be saying less. I don't think it has. But it has, I think, stopped me from doing that thing that I normally do, where sometimes I move away from the mic like this, and suddenly I get louder, and then I come away. I think what we've now, and actually I'm enjoying this, and Reese has told me about this, and how it's good for the, and I feel like a professional. I feel like one of those American podcasters, who sits here, and it's like, okay, it's 6 weeks since the Tom Brady roast. Let's keep analysing it, and let's keep discussing ways that Bert Kreischer and Tom Segura can keep digging themselves out of the hole and not really admitting the fact that they completely fucked it up and that they got completely outdone by Nikki Glaser. I'm still talking about it, you see? Can't stop. Tyson Fury's, there's a rematch between him and Usyk, which is very exciting. I believe it's in December. I don't know why. It does seem weird, doesn't it, to have like who's the undisputed world heavyweight fighter, and you have it and go, okay, well, isn't that it? Is undisputed? Oh no, there's a rematch. Why is there a rematch? Oh, there's a rematch because Tyson Fury made $150 million to lose, and Usyk made 50. Everyone just wants more money. Just leave it a bit. Like, how quickly can you rush? It's the Hangover 2 of boxing, of fights. Okay, Michael Lynch has asked, growing up in the UK, as we both did, what were some of your favourite TV shows? I'm always amazed that most Canadians have never heard of Skippy the Bush Kangaroo. I think that's Australian. Neighbours, that's also Australian. Home and Away, Country Practice. Oh, but as well as the Aussie ones, I also watched Littlest Hobo and Beachcombers. Good point, Michael. I mean, I'm somewhat surprised about the British shows that have made their way here. Like Trailer Park Boys is obviously the one Canadian thing that has travelled globally, and I knew it was popular. I didn't know how popular until I posted a video on my Instagram of Jonathan Torrens telling me how his friend Mike Clattenburg created it, and it's the most viewed video I've ever had. It's like 2 million views. And but the comments are incredible. It's just people going, I live in Papua New Guinea, and it's the funniest show I've ever seen. And people in Canada do seem to know, like Mrs. Brown's Boys. I always see that on DVD in Walmart, which is interesting. I mean, Only Fools and Horses, Not the 9 o'clock News, The Young Ones, obviously Filthy Rich and Cat Flat Bottom. If anyone has basically anything with Rick Mail, Aid Edmondson, the Comic Strip Presents. Growing up, I mean, I watched as a kid. I wasn't massively into. I'm more into kind of animated stuff now. I wasn't really into cartoons as a kid. There was a BBC sitcom called Bad Boys that I remember absolutely loving. We used to rush home for children's BBC with Andy Peters and Philip Schofield before he became problematic, or maybe he's not problematic, and it was just the homophobic right-wing media in the UK that decided he was problematic because why not sleep with a 14-year-old intern? I don't even know. The guy wasn't 14, 15 and a half. I don't know. I loved these movies called the Children's Film Foundation that were like these hour-long movies designed for kids before many movies were made for kids, movies like Tightrope for Terror. But yes, Neighbours, Home and Away, loved all those shows. Tree Smith has asked, how much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? Excellent question. How much wood? Probably about as much wood as I'm chucking right now, and I've got very short shorts on. If I swear, this is the first time we've got video going. Some of you might even be able to see my wood, and how far the woodchuck's chucking. These are. I don't know. I don't think I knew I was going to be on camera when I wore these. Shorts. Luckily, I don't have much wood to chuck, but if I could chuck wood, I wouldn't be wearing these shorts. Heidi Oxner asked, what is one of the most difficult decisions I ever had to make? And I think I started that last week and I didn't finish it fully. I mean, obviously, do I leave a very good job in England and everything I've built up and move here? It was a hard one. But I would say the most difficult decision I've had to make this week is, do I go and meet one of my favorite artists of all time, Snoop Dogg, and party with the greatest Canadian comedy icons of all time in character, the Trailer Park Boys, or do I go back to my hotel room and go to bed? And I chose going to bed, but it was the right decision because I'll tell you why. And a few people were kind of not trying to pressure me, but going, well, why wouldn't you just come for a couple of drinks? And the point I had to make is that for many years in London and to an extent in here, since I've moved here, but in London, I basically have my dream job / once working up to a certain point, I was doing gigs that I dreamed of my whole life, doing whether it be stand-up or TV or interviewing someone. And I spent a lot of that time hungover / in serious discomfort, should we say, turning up for shoots with heroes or interviewing someone that I've admired my entire life, or turning up to a gig and there's like 3,000 people out there and sitting there feeling like death because I'd overdone it the night before. I never didn't do the job well, but the point is that I didn't enjoy it. And when you've spent your entire life wishing for something, dreaming of something, and it finally comes to fruition, it's a really stupid, dumb, shitty thing to not enjoy every second of it. And if you are sat there going, oh God, I can't wait to go to bed when you're doing the thing you dreamed of most, then you are a effing moron. So I decided to stop being an effing moron. And would it have been fun to go to the Toothy Moose in a very intimate environment and meet and hang with Snoop Dogg and the Trailer Boys? Yeah, of course it would. But what would I rather be doing? I'd rather be so blessed that I'm filming a sitcom for their streaming network and not only do an excellent job and be way more on the ball. And given this is a show that is encouraging, and thanks to Tyler Burns, the amazing writer director, encouraging a lot of improvisation, which I know is going to come out beautifully, because again, in beautiful crossover circles, it's being edited by one of my favorite people in the world. That's right, Mr. Reese Waters. That's right. So Reese will be editing this majestic sitcom together. And so is in addition to wanting to be more confident, on the ball, funny, slick, I also crucially want to be there enjoying every second of it and not wishing I'm somewhere else. So it really is, I say that's a difficult decision. It's not a difficult decision anymore. I'd never, ever, ever choose going out over, being on the ball at work. Keith Anderson asked, what do I not like about living in New Brunswick? It's an excellent question. There are things, and I think I've said this before, but it's needing to drive everywhere. That definitely sucks. I would definitely like things to be closer. And obviously, occasionally it's tough when everyone knows everyone. But okay, you know what? I think I said this last week, and I come back to that. Randy Garland, he asked last week who makes me laugh, and last week I said Travis Lindsay. So each week I would like to highlight a different great comedian. So this week I will highlight a PEI comedian and very good friend of mine. He's a global comedian who happens to live on PEI, called Patrick Ledwell, who I am doing the Small Halls Festival on PEI with in a couple of weeks. And he's phenomenal. There's Deborah Kimmett's on the shows. Heidi Brander and I are doing a show together at Mill River Resort. But check out Patrick Ledwell. If you're going to PEI over the summer, he's doing a weekly show, Patrick Ledwell and Friends, at the Trailside Music Hall. Caitlin Dean sent me the most lovely long email. God bless you, Caitlin. Caitlin has referenced a video store that was in Rothesay called Flicks Video. This was a huge part of Caitlin's childhood. They used to walk there from Quispamsis. They see, you can cross, in the old days, you could cross over from Quispamsis into Rothesay without too much bother. They would go every Friday and rent videos. And the staff used to refer to their customers by their unique video identifier. So her family was M54. So if you walked into the video store circa 99 and you heard, did you hear that M54 rented She's All That for the 25th time? You would know they were talking about Caitlin Dean and her sister. How cool is that? I actually have some videos in my collection that have flicks on it. So can anyone let me know? Maybe Caitlin, let me know where exactly Flicks was so I can start referring to that business as where Flicks used to be. Caitlin remembers that in the KV there was a time where there were at least 5 video rental spots, and she remembers being late returning movies to 3 of them, and them going out of business before she had the chance to return them. Naughty, Caitlin. When I was filming that video that went somewhat New Brunswick viral of me doing the Maritime Directions thing, and I posted the video through the slot at the Blockbuster Video that had obviously closed. I always wondered, wouldn't it be great if I posted that through the door and some magical thing happened and the video store came to life? There's a movie. I want to just check. Oh, and I would point out the tickets are going on sale now for the Dooryard Arts Festival in Woodstock. I performed at it last year at the McCain Theatre. Absolutely phenomenal festival. Caitlin Dean was actually one of the founding members of the Dooryard Arts Festival. And it's one of those perfect examples of Atlantic Canada, just entrepreneurial spirit and artistic and creative spirit, whereby a group of people got together and decided that Woodstock deserved to have a proper arts festival. Amazing artists, Wolf Castle is there. But crucially, Caitlin Dean is performing stand-up there with a group of friends, and by friends I mean fellow amazing comedians. So please do check out the Dooryard Arts Festival. It's actually worth going and booking a hotel, staying at the Best Western in Woodstock to go to this. Toby Bellman, how are you, my friend? My dear friend of my brother's, a wonderful man who I partied with back in the day. How big does a muffin have to be before it comes a cake? That sounds filthy. How big does a muffin have to be before it becomes a cake? It's a good question, because I often over-egg the pudding, so to speak, when I am making muffins. My wife was saying, put less in. How big does a muffin have to be before it becomes a cake? It's a good question. Let's just say 6 inches, Toby. That tends to be my answer to any question involving size. Sheila Bean, God bless you, my friend. Sheila Bean, one of the first friends I ever made, actually moments from here. In my very first time performing at Yuck Yucks, when it used to be at the West Inn Hotel, Sheila and her husband Bill, who used to be the CEO of the QE2 Foundation, it was our first time meeting. They were in the front row at Yuck Yucks, and we went to Bailey's afterwards, myself and Catherine Robertson, and I believe it was Mark Walker. Anyway, Sheila's asked, when are you in Yarmouth, Nova Scotia again? Soon, I hope, Sheila. If anyone at Yarmouth is listening, please do tell the bosses at the Yark Playhouse I would love to return, because I miss the good old Red Night, the location of some of you should always play a game of where would Noel Winters have drunk if he lived in Yarmouth? The Red Night. I'll leave my final. I had a message from Rhonda Bulmer from the Writers Federation at New Brunswick, saying that next year's the 40th anniversary of the Writers Federation of New Brunswick and the 10th anniversary of the New Brunswick Book Awards, it's going to be a very big one. Again, lots of big ones in this episode. I think we're done. I have no idea how long I've been rambling for. because normally I have the clocker going, but now I don't. But I'm going to assume that I've used up all my time. I'm going to quickly say that thank you for listening. This is the 14th podcast. Go and check out SwearNet. Thank you so much, all of you, for listening. If I've missed anything out, or if ever you're listening and I don't answer your question, it is simply because I've missed it. So write to me and tell me, because the policy stands. Every single question will be answered. And I will point out, I haven't forgotten about Mullinger's matchmaking services. I have indeed been sent actually one for the list. So before I do that, next week, and just as a reminder, we are looking for good men who are available to date. So by good men, we mean you have to have bathed this week. You don't, on a regular basis, send pictures of your genitalia to anyone unless they ask for it. But I mean actually ask for it, not like she's asking for it. I mean she has actually, unless you have it in writing, whatever. Unless a carrier pigeon has turned up with a note saying, I would like to see a photograph of you, then you get what I'm saying. No dick pics, regular baths, kind. That's what we're looking for. I know it's a lot to ask. If you know any men like that, let me know, because I have, quite frankly, an ever-growing list of delightful ladies in the Maritimes region who are looking for decent men. Thank you for listening. I've been James Mullinger. You've been you. This has been a joy. I'll see you next week. This has been Mullinger's Weekly Ramble, live from the Podstarter studio here in Halifax, Nova Scotia. Thank you, John. Thank you, Reese. Thank you, Connor. And thank you, Nancy Regan, for the gang-dang delicious fudge, which I'm going to now go and eat all of. See you next week. Have a wonderful rest of week, my friends.
Mullinger's Weekly Ramble.